what the UK needs to do now is hold Israel to account. And we have not just a moral duty, but also a legal duty to do that. And that means a full arms embargo, sanctions like those that we have rightly put on Russia. It means no longer providing diplomatic cover to Israel at the UN. We've got to stand up to the Israeli government and not allow these far-right politicians to do this in the world, or international law ceases to mean anything, and that harms all of us.
Who stands up for the hostages in your scenario? Who stands up for the Israeli people? Who stands up for the mothers and fathers that saw their children brutally murdered in front of them on October the 7th? Who stands up for the women who were raped before they were brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists? It's such a one-sided view, this. Why isn't the word genocide ever used about Hamas's behaviour on October the 7th?
No, it's not a one-sided view.
It is.
Absolutely. I have, from the very beginning, called for the hostages to be returned. What do you think bombing Gaza... No, let me ask you this. How does bombing Gaza help the hostages?
How does keeping the hostages help the Gazan people? That's the part of the ceasefire deal. It's been very clear that Israel's got a right to defend itself, as have all countries. A terrorist atrocity was carried out on October the 7th. As part of the ceasefire deal, the hostages were meant to be returned. Some of the hostages that were meant to be returned were actually killed in captivity. We now know how some of the hostages were kept in captivity. Until those hostages are returned, there can be no ceasefire at all. I'm not advocating the slaying of women and children in Gaza.
But you're advocating for it to continue.
No, what I'm saying is that there is never any dialogue from you and people like you who are constantly banging on about...
What do you mean, people like me?
People like you who are accusing the Israelis of genocide without taking any responsibility.
People like Amnesty International, like the UN Special Rapporteur.
People like you, Nadia, without actually acknowledging...
No, say what you really mean by that.
I'm saying exactly what I mean, which is why don't you acknowledge the genocide that has been carried out by Hamas against the Israeli people and also at the harm of their own people? This is a terrorist organisation that has been using Palestinians as human shields.
Hamas, I've unequivocally...
You didn't in the original thing that you said. It was all very one-sided.
The very first thing I said...
Yeah, well, let Nadia respond.
I'm consistent. I condemn both. Why don't you?
But Nadia, do you think the hostages should now be released? Would that then...
Obviously, I've said again and again that they should be released. Of course they should.
If they are released, that takes away from Hamas's perspective any part that they can use in negotiations. Has the Israeli bombardment, restarting airstrike, put those hostages' lives at risk?
I think the point is here is that how can the Israelis position themselves if they've still got their own people in captivity in Gaza? What is Netanyahu meant to do? What's he meant to turn around and say to the families of those hostages?
Why doesn't he listen to the families? Because the families are calling for this to end. Okay, not just for the Palestinian people, but also for their own loved ones who are being kept as hostages.
Why does Hamas continue to allow the Palestinian people to be used as human shields within their own territory?
Well, I'm not one here as a spokesperson for Hamas.
Let's hope nobody is.
But I condemn them over and over again.
Nadia,
when will you condemn the Israeli government for its genocide of the Palestinian people?
Because I don't think I don't agree with you that it's international law. I don't agree with the language of genocide.
OK, you don't have to agree that it's genocide.
Israel is defending its own territory against a prescribed terrorist group. I'd like to know why nobody seems to call out the fact that the hostages are still there and that Hamas... If we have all of this talk about we must free Palestine. Free Palestine from whom? The Israelis or their Hamas terrorist captors? Because the people who are really damaging the people of Gaza right now are Hamas.
It's both.
It's not acknowledged, and it's not acknowledged fully enough in debates like